travel friends, it's Stoof here from Travel SzN. Welcome back to our channel. We recently returned from a trip to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It was our first time visiting this part of the United States. We were very excited for the trip, and we're here today to share this trip with you. We visited the area using our travel trailer. We were away from home for a little over 2 weeks, visiting various destinations like Petoskey, Isle Royale National Park, Hancock and Houghton, the Porcupine Mountains, the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, and Mackinac Island. As I am describing these places, I wanted to mention I was pronouncing all of these places wrong when I planned out this trip. When I physically went to these places, I was corrected almost everywhere I went. And you guys know me, I tend to mispronounce things. So if I do still mispronounce anything, my apologies in advance. But I did correct myself on how to pronounce Mackinac Island, Houghton, Isle Royale, as well as other places that we visited on this trip.
It's right there. He's like, what's he barking at? Yeah.
That's the big one right there.
Now he sees it. Now he sees it.
All right, so we started off the trip with the drive up north and west from the Pittsburgh region. We made a quick pit stop at this massive Christmas store a few hours north of Detroit on our way up to Petoskey. Once we got up to Petoskey, we checked in at our RV park. We stayed at the Sun Outdoors RV park, which was very nice. I highly recommend this RV park if you are visiting the area. We got settled in at the RV park, took the dogs for a short walk around, and we called it a night. The next day, we took our dogs for a hike on the Mount Mixaba recreation area dunes. Duke just loves the dunes. He loves playing in sand. Anytime we get to a sandy spot, he gets the zoomies, and it is so cute. But we walked around along the lakeshore there. It was a windy day, and after doing some hiking, headed back and just relaxed again for a couple nights. Our next destination was the town of Hancock in the Upper Peninsula. So we started our drive. We drove north over the Mackinac Bridge, which is pretty impressive to see in person, where we crossed over into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Shortly after crossing over into the Upper Peninsula, we were greeted with lots of pasty shops. Pasties we will try later on in this video, so you'll get to see that coming up soon. But once we made it to our next destination, near the town of Houghton, we stayed at the Hancock recreational area. This is another campground. The dogs love this location as well because it's very close to the Portage Canal area where they could go check out the water. And that was really nice to walk down there and see the fog rising up over the water in the mornings. We planned a day trip to Isle Royale National Park. About 7 months in advance, we booked the seaplane ride so we could visit the national park for 1 day.
It's our wedding anniversary today, 8 years. And we are going to Isle Royale National Park. We're taking a seaplane. One of them right back there. We're all checked in, so we're waiting for the other passengers to get here, and then we're gonna hop on the plane. It's about a 40-minute plane ride to the island.
Day trip only. Parking is $6.
Isle Royale is a national park located about 60 miles northwest of Hancock, Michigan. You can get to it via seaplane, or you can get to it via the ferry system that they have. You are also welcome to take your own boat there if you have that. But we decided to go with the seaplane route because it was only a 45-minute seaplane ride versus a 2.5 to 3 hour boat ride. The seaplane was pretty crowded getting over to Isle Royale National Park. They really crammed in 7 people in that plane that could just barely fit all of us. So we were very happy as soon as we landed on that water and docked and were able to get off on the islands. I'm going to have more videos about our experience at Isle Royale National Park coming up. I'm going to briefly talk about our time there in this video though. After arriving on the seaplane, we arrived in the Rock Harbor area, which is on the north side of the national park. We walked from the seaplane area over to the visitor center where you can check in. The first thing we did after getting checked in at the national park was rent kayaks.
All right, so we went to the marina and we got our paddles for kayaking. And now we're walking over to where the seaplane dropped us off at Tobin Harbor, and that is where we are allowed to kayak. They said the kayaks are going to be waiting for us over here by the dock. So we're going to hop in a kayak, there they are, and then we're going to kayak over to another part of the island and do some hiking.
We rented a kayak and we went across this long, narrow bay area to a hiking trail. This was an interesting kayaking experience. I'm not sure if it was the kayak or the current or the wind, but we had a very difficult time kayaking straight. This was one of the best workouts we've had on a short kayaking experience ever. One thing I was not aware of is that most people that visit Isle Royale National Park seem to spend more than one night there. Most people don't seem to visit the park for the day like we did. And that's because there are a ton of backpacking campsites scattered all along the national park, from the north end to the south end of those islands. And it's a very quiet, peaceful, secluded park. This is very different from your national park experience if you go to Yosemite or Yellowstone or the Grand Canyon. We saw a decent amount of people at the Rock Harbor area, but as soon as you get out on the trails, there are barely any other people around. Here is the viewpoint from the Lookout Louise overlook area. After hiking there, we headed back to the kayak and made it back over to return the kayak, and then we did another hike on the Stoll Memorial Trail. Isle Royale National Park is known to have moose frequenting specific areas of the park. We did see moose tracks, but we did not see any physical living moose. Isle Royale also has a wild wolf population, but we did not see any wolves during our day trip either. This was a beautiful hike. The views along here reminded me a lot of the coast of Maine, with the rocky shoreline and the waves crashing against the rocks, the pine trees along the shore as well. It was beautiful in every direction you looked. As we were spending our day on Isle Royale National Park, we noticed the conditions in the air were getting windier and windier. That was making us kind of nervous that our plane wasn't going to get us to go home. We kept checking the screen at the visitor center that let us know if there were any delays in the seaplane coming to get us, and we didn't see any delays after checking it several times throughout the day. There is a restaurant there at Rock Harbor, so we grabbed some food and some wine at the restaurant, just relaxed, and took in the landscape from the outside patio area. The seaplane did come to pick us up, and we made it back home safely. The next day, however, Isle Royale got hit with some very strong thunderstorms, so we were happy that we made it out of there safely. If you're planning a trip to Isle Royale National Park and you're planning on just going for one day, keep in mind that the weather is changing constantly and there is a chance that you could get stuck there. All right, we made it back.
What a good boy! He's having so much fun in the water! So much fun! What a good boy!
The next day, we drove from Hancock down to the Porcupine Mountains State Park area, where we visited a few different destinations. The first stop was the Lake of the Clouds. They have a beautiful overlook of this long lake surrounded by tree-covered hills. There is some hiking to do around the lake as well, so we did a little bit of hiking there, got some up-close views of the wetlands and the lake area. And this is a dog-friendly state park, so we brought the dogs with us. The next hike we went to was the Summit Tower Overlook hike. There is a boardwalk that takes you through the forest, and there's a watchtower with wooden steps. You can make your way up, and you have beautiful 360-degree views of the surrounding tree-covered landscape. If you look very far out into the distance, you also can see Lake Superior. Our third stop at the Porcupine Mountains region was the Presque Isle area, where we did some hiking along the river, saw several cascading waterfalls. And took the trail all the way out to the lake shore, where we looked around at all of the beautiful rocks on the lake shore. Then we headed back to the vehicle and made our way back to the campsite. The next day, we took the travel trailer and headed east to the Pictured Rocks Lakeshore area. We did one full day at Pictured Rocks. Starting bright and early in the morning, we took the dogs with us on 2 hiking trails where dogs are permitted. The first overlook was called Miner's Castle Rock, and here's what it looks like. There's a cute little overlook for smaller children and pets, so the dogs enjoyed that, getting the view out the little window. Miner's Castle has an upper overlook and a lower overlook, accessible by a wooden boardwalk feature that they built. So we checked out both of those viewpoints and then walked around in that area a bit and headed back to the car. Next, we drove over to the parking area for Miners Beach. It's a short walk from the parking area down to the beach. This beach is covered in multicolored rocks that are rounded from the water. We walked along the shore, observing kayakers, out on the lake, and checking out the beautiful rocks on the shore. And of course, Duke had a lot of fun running around in the sandier spots.
Oh, digging hole!
Our third stop for the morning was the hiking trail to Miners Falls. So we stayed all in this Miners area, seeing Miners Castle, Miners Beach, and Miners Falls. The hike to Miners Falls was easy to moderate. And at the end of the hike, you get to a wooden deck with a beautiful overlook of Miners Falls.
What are we here to do?
Look at rocks.
And look at rocks is what we did. This 3-hour boat ride took us along the 15-mile stretch of colorful sandstone cliffs up to 200 feet over the lake level. We saw arches, waterfalls, beaches, kayakers out on the water, and beautiful, colorful rocks. On the way back, our boat captain took us to another island across the water where we could see this old lighthouse. Then we made it back and tried pasties for the first time. We tried the Yooper pasty. A Yooper is what you call an Upper Peninsula of Michigan native. This particular pasty had potatoes, carrots, onions, and meat.
All right, so we got our pasties. We're trying for the first time.
Cheers.
Cheers. Look at that. It's basically just a meal cooked into bread. It's really good.
We had one final stop at the pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, and that was Sand Point. There is a beach and a marsh with a boardwalk / loop hiking trail that takes you through the marshland area. So we visited both of those locations and got all loaded up with the travel trailer and headed southeast to St. Ignace, which became our home base while we visited Mackinac Island. We took the ferry over to Mackinac Island mid-morning. I have a link for more information about the ferries and Mackinac Island in the description under this video. It was about a 35-minute ferry ride. Once we arrived on the island, we headed straight to the bicycle rental area where we rented bicycles and gave ourselves a nice little tour of the island. There are no vehicles on this island, only horse-drawn carriages and bicycles or walking. There is a road that loops around the entire island and several streets inside that go to different cottages, towns, and historical locations, hiking trails, things like that. We did not make the full loop around. We just went about a quarter of the way around the eastern side of the island, where we stopped to do a short hike to an overlook of an arch rock. We then made our way back to the main town, had some lunch, visited the forts, took in the sights, and just relaxed and enjoyed our time here.
Not expecting that. Or the crying kid.
At the end of the day, we hopped back on our ferry, took the ferry ride over to St. Ignace where our campground was, and called it a night. Our visit to Mackinac Island pretty much wrapped up the trip. After that, we began our drive home. To break up the drive, we stayed at a Sun Outdoors campground near Northville, Michigan, and then continued back home to Pittsburgh. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to our travel adventures in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and the Northern Michigan area. It was our first time trying some new foods, visiting some new places, and making some new friends. We really enjoyed our time here, and I'll be creating some more in-depth videos about some of these specific locations coming soon. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We look forward to sharing more of our travel adventures with you in the future. Have a great day and happy travels!